Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining me today for the year-end review for entrepreneurs. My name is Dorothy Bosse, and I am the founder of Inspired by Choice. I am a master life coach, certified transformational coach, certified life and health coach with 20 years of progressive sales and marketing experience. Today, I help entrepreneurs such as yourselves to overcome the limiting beliefs and fears that are keeping you from thriving in business and in life. Through talks, workshops like this one, and private coaching, I provide the tools, the support, and the accountability that allow people to unleash their full human potential and really take off in business and in life. All my contact information is in the QR code. So if you haven't connected with me yet on LinkedIn, I invite you to do that, as well as please sign up for my VIP mailing list through my website. Now, for the purpose of really getting value out of this webinar, you will want to interact with the year-end review template. The access link to download the document should be in the comments below. So if you haven't done that yet, please pause the video and make sure that you download the template, make a version for yourself, as this will be a very, very valuable part of the presentation and of you getting the most value out of this webinar. I have worked 17 years in Canada's largest oil and gas company, and one of the things that they did very well is standardizing and documenting processes. So the year-end review was a standardized process that regardless of which department I was in, on which leader I worked for, there were always certain things that I was expected to reflect on and comment on at the end of the year. And as my career progressed, and I became a leader myself, there were certain things that I was asked to comment on and that I was interested in hearing from my employees about the year-end review process. So in doing this webinar and doing the work, you are actually getting the interconnection of three of my areas of expertise: my robust background in corporate, my appreciation for the world of entrepreneurs, specifically starting out entrepreneurs who are just building up their own processes and the business itself, and of course, my insights as a master life coach. So you might think that if you're just starting out and you are possibly a solopreneur or a very small business, an entire 45 minutes to an hour is a lot of time to spend on a year-end review. Is it overkill? Well, let me ask you this question. What kind of year did you have? That's not on the handout. I'm just asking you to reflect on that for a second. If you didn't go through this process with me today, the chances are you'd finish the year with some form of this question, either at the front or at the back of your mind. And if you went ahead and reflected without any guidance, just the question, chances are eventually you would spiral into a version of all of the things that didn't happen, all of the goals you didn't meet, and all of the ways that you don't feel you are where you want to be. So if I left you with just that, chances are you're berating yourself. You're counting all the ways that you didn't work hard enough, you didn't this and that enough. And ultimately, the message ends up being how you weren't enough. And from there, it's just a sharp turn into, well, maybe I'm not cut out for this. And from that, it's a quick drop into, maybe I'm not cut out for anything. Now, there's absolutely no way that I can leave you at the end of the year feeling that way about yourself and your business. And it's certainly not the kind of mindset that you'd want to be taking into the new year as you start goal setting for a new business year. So instead, what we're going to do is a guided review. Now, my goals and objectives for this workshop are as follows. I want you to walk away with a process and tools that are valuable to you, that you can use now and in the future. And that's the reason why I'm providing this template in Word document form versus PDF, because I really do want you to take it away and make it your own. Add sections, change language, whatever brings it closer to home for you and for your business. What I'm giving you is just a starting point template. I also want you to get a deeper appreciation of the year that you actually had. Not just all the things that didn't happen and all the ways you weren't enough, but all of the other positives, achievements, and the things you've already forgotten you did, and the other things that you're probably taking for granted. I also want you to walk away with some immediate insights that will inform your business plan for 2024. So if you sit with this material and with this recording and actually pause at the end of the specific sections, sit down and jot down your reflections, you will walk away with invaluable insights into what has happened for you this year that will inform next year's plan. So please, I encourage you to actually pause the video when I invite you to do so and reflect at least for 2 to 5 minutes in each section. And yes, ultimately, I do want you to get inspired by choice, whatever that might mean for you. So whether you get inspired by the material or your own insights, or if you actually do choose to get inspired by choice as a support for your business in the new year, either way, I want you to walk away more inspired than you walked into this webinar. And then my objective will be met. So let's get started. Who is this review for, and who are you filling this document out for? Today, you will have the benefit of reviewing 3 different perspectives. The perspectives of your business and of your company through the business review portion, a perspective of an employee, and for today, I really want that employee perspective to come from you, the business owner, and finally, the leadership perspective. I will guide you through each one when the time comes, and we're going to have a little bit of fun with it. So I invite you to look around at the space that you're using to really work through this webinar and make sure that you have at least a little bit of space that you can physically move to the left of you and to the right of you. Because when it comes time to shift perspective, I will literally physically invite you to shift. It doesn't have to be a very big distance, but make sure that there's space on both sides of you and that for now you're sitting right in the center, and I'll guide you through that when the time comes. To start, let's fill out the top of the form. So this year-end review is for your company name, for the calendar year. Right now for us, it's 2023, but when are you watching the video? Representing what year of operations? And if you are in your first year of operations, I also invite you to highlight which month of operations you're actually in. Of course, we want your employee name and the title that you carry today. Now, I am assuming that the person watching this is an entrepreneur and a business owner. So I will be speaking to you throughout this webinar as if you were the entrepreneur. Getting into the business review then, the first area, of course, we're going to look at are the business goals. So think back to the beginning of the year, whenever it is that you started the company this year, and think, were there business goals that were set at the beginning of the year? And are these goals clear to you today? Are the goals SMART? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And when you start thinking really about what the goals were, you also have the opportunity to review the business results. So let's reflect. Do you in fact have the tools and processes in place to track the results for your business goals? Do you happen to know what they are year to date today? And if you don't, do you know where you need to go to be able to access them? Now, if you are reflecting back and you notice that this was not, in fact, set up properly for you for this year, and there are certain gaps, that's okay. No stress. This is an opportunity for you to take a few minutes, look into this section, and jot down what you wish you had worked towards and what you wished you had been tracking. Because now, after you record it, you'll be able to apply it into your goal planning for next year. So please take a pause right here and take a couple of minutes to fill in the business goals and business results. Wonderful. Now let's move on to the milestones and achievements of the year. So for this section, I'm inviting you to do a thorough brain dump of everything that you are proud of having achieved this year. So this could be your website launch, any firsts, any anniversaries, any launches, any pivotal moments or events, any strategic or tactical targets that have been met or exceeded. Oh, and yes, no achievement is too small to mention. So some examples might be your first business plan, your first talk, maybe the first 10 customers that you reached. Maybe you've reached a pivotal number of followers on a social media platform. Maybe you finally developed your brand. Maybe you launched your first advertising campaign. Maybe it's your 3rd year and you're still here. Please pause the video and take a few minutes to jot down everything that comes to mind in terms of your milestones and your achievements. Thank you. And now we're able to move on to the next part, the plot twists, the unexpected, because life does tend to happen in ways that we didn't expect it to. And success is nonlinear. So sometimes we will be faced with failures, setbacks, and disappointments. And the unexpected that shows up over the course of the year, some of it might be bad, but some of it might actually even be good, but it will send us down a different path. So what I invite you to do is explore all of that from both a professional and a personal perspective. Because as an entrepreneur, your personal experiences will very much influence your professional life. Illness, big shifts in relationships, personal relationships, possibly even large geopolitical events that are drawing your attention and your emotions away from your business towards something else will have an impact in this area. And what you want to note after you've explored all of the different plot twists that came up during this year is what lessons might you have learned from that experience? What did you learn from the disappointing and the unexpected? Remember, there are no failures, there's just learnings. So let's take a couple of minutes, jot all of that down, and explore what those learnings are for you. Great work. And now we're going to take a further dive into acknowledging all of the training, skills, and capability development that you've done this year, because any time that you invest into developing yourself and your skill set is time well spent. So let's explore that. What type of courses, certifications, seminars, and webinars did you attend this year? What new apps, software, and processes did you have to learn and implement? Did you spend time and energy on coaching, mentorship, and personal development? Please take a few minutes and jot down all of the different things that you've learned and possibly even mastered over the course of this past year. Great. Let's continue on. So now we're going to shift perspectives a little bit and take a look at what other people are saying about your business this year. What kind of stakeholder feedback are you getting? Now, if we're going to take a look at stakeholder feedback, I'm first going to invite you to reflect on who are your stakeholders versus your everyone. Because as a coach, I hear very often from clients, everyone thinks, everyone's saying, everyone thinks I'm crazy to be doing this. Everyone's saying I should be doing it differently. Well, who is your everyone? Oftentimes when people talk about everyone, what they really mean is life partners, their parents, their siblings, their own children, friends, and very often everyone also includes colleagues who were in your past world and not in your current world. Where on the flip side, your stakeholders are obviously your customers, your business partners, employees, contractors, vendors, mentors, coaches, and investors. And very often, the stakeholder group and the everyone group are not related to each other, and there's very little interconnection there. And yet, we tend to put so much energy on what everyone is thinking and saying, and very little energy, or not enough energy and focus on what the actual stakeholders are saying about us and our business. So let's explore that further. Have you asked your stakeholders for feedback this year? Did you receive reviews? Did you receive survey results and first level marketing interview feedback? If you haven't, then this is a beautiful opportunity for you to go back and request some feedback. Reach out to your stakeholders and say, hey, I'm in the process of my annual year-end review, and I'd love to hear what your experience has been like with us. And it gives you permission to solicit some rounded feedback on how your business is doing and give you a little bit of perspective. So what are they telling you if you've already received the feedback this past year? This is a good opportunity to remind yourself what that feedback was. And if you haven't received it, who could you ask that you haven't asked yet? So please take a couple of moments to jot down the results and the additional possibilities that you haven't pursued yet. And now we will continue to look at new key relationships. So I'm inviting you to reflect on all the valuable contacts you made this year. And out of all of those contacts, once you list them, think about which ones do you want to nurture into relationships. Because a contact is a contact, but a relationship requires some time, energy, and investment on your part. So out of those key contacts, if you highlight the ones which you want to have as key relationships, it begs the question of who is overdue for a touch base? Because the year end is a fantastic time to grab a coffee, have a meeting, or at least reach out with a card or an email to say, thinking of you and wishing you a great holiday season. So take a moment now, reflect on all of the key contacts that you've met this year, and highlight where you want to continue to build relationships. And that concludes the business review portion. Now we're going to take a moment to step into the role of company employee. In this perspective, you are not the company. You are not the owner. You are just a person who has been hired by your company to do a job. So we are actually going to move back, stand up, and physically separate you from your company. So if your company was at the center, I want you to choose either the space to the left of you or the space to the right of you, and physically take a step into a new position. And this will be the position of you as the employee. So sit down in your new spot, separate from the business. Feel the freedom to express yourself, shake off any residual stress from the other role. Take a deep breath. Okay, and now it's time for you to do a self-assessment and a self-evaluation as you, the employee. So this piece will be a moment of self-reflection on how you showed up. I do invite you to do this fast and go from your gut, but at the same time, please be honest and fair. It is very unlikely when you go through this evaluation that you got all fives across the board or all ones across the board. So go quickly, but do aim to be fair and honest in the way you answer each question. And of course, answering these questions will bring up some areas of opportunity for how you could show up next year. So that's your chance to take some time and jot down which opportunities you want to work on. So please take a couple of minutes now to work through this section. Give yourself at least 3 to 5 minutes. Opportunities identified? Fantastic. Now let's move on to the next part, the really fun part. Oh, I missed this piece. Okay, what came up in the self-reflection that you'd like to address next year? Hopefully you captured that. Now on to the fun part. Your ask of the company. What might you ask your company for? Maybe you're looking for some reward and recognition. Maybe you could use some acknowledgement for all the hard work you put in. Maybe a celebration? How about a raise or a bonus? Maybe a promotion. You're likely the founder and CEO, but maybe there's some work that you'd like to get off of your plate and be focused on something more strategic. Maybe your ask is for time off. It could be an opportunity to recharge before the new year. Or maybe you're recognizing that you haven't given yourself enough vacation time, maybe sick days, given your situation. Maybe you need a little bit more flexibility. Or maybe you're actually looking for a real leave of absence or a sabbatical to go and handle another issue that came up in one of your plot twists. Or here's a stretch. Maybe what you're actually feeling and wanting is permission to explore other opportunities. Give yourself permission in the role of employee to ask whatever it is that you feel you need. You could also be looking for additional resources. So maybe your ask is around money because you feel that certain things aren't being properly funded by the company. Technology, advertising, other areas. Perhaps you're wanting the company to invest in people, maybe hire or subcontract or outsource certain activities. Maybe it's things that are very time-consuming and low-value work that someone else could be doing faster, for cheaper, and probably better. Maybe it's highly specialized work. Or maybe you're looking for some training on technologies, processes, maybe specific certifications that would help you accelerate your outputs. Or maybe, excuse me, you're looking for some personal development, some mentorship or some coaching. Take a moment now, jot down your ask of your company with the freedom of being just the employee. Now take a deep breath. Wasn't that fun? Doesn't it feel good to just get that ask out there without concern about how it's all going to work out? Breathe that in, let it out, and enjoy this moment. Okay, moment's over. And it is now time to shift over back into your leadership seat. So again, I am going to invite you to get up from the spot where you were the leader and take a nice, raise your posture, stand up straight, and take a nice big step past where you were in the center as the company and step over to the other side to where your leadership seat sits. So now I invite you to majestically settle into your executive chair. Feel into the power of your leadership role and all the accountability that comes with that. And from this position of power and authority, you are going to review what the employee over there gave you as feedback and what the earlier business review is telling you about the state of the business and the company. So let's do it. The first thing you're going to do as the leader is a reality check. Is the employee, yourself over in the other role, is that employee being realistic with their goals and expectations? Did they work harder than they acknowledged? Or did they maybe not work quite as hard as they could have? Is there retention risk? Is this person at risk of being burnt out, of getting super sick because they're not taking care of themselves? They're not managing their time properly, their energy properly. They're talented. Maybe they're going to get exhausted and they'll want to jump ship and go work somewhere else. Should you address this? Please don't skip this step. Just because the employee we're reviewing is you doesn't justify you being a bad leader. How you do one thing is how you do everything. So model good leadership in the way that you lead yourself. And the way you can do that is through this next section of gratitude, recognition, celebration, and reward. So reflect. What needs to be expressed and to whom? You as the employee ought to be on the top of that list, but there might be others. You might have other employees. Maybe there are stakeholders that need some gratitude and recognition. Maybe it's some of the key relationships. And after you reflect on this piece, reflect on how is that recognition, celebration, and gratitude best expressed. And the next area you will want to review is addressing the resource needs that have been identified. So the resource needs, is that need really necessary? And if it is, well, is it possible today? And if it's not, well, what is required to make it possible? Please take a moment to reflect on these three things now and jot them down. Excellent. And now that you've done that, the final step as the executive is to make notes for next year's plan. So based on everything that you've written, everything that you've reflected on, you have two more areas to consider. What has worked well this year that you definitely want to keep? And what didn't work well? Because for the things that did not work well this year, you have one of three options to pursue. You either want to stop doing them, you want to transform doing them into something else, or you want to improve on them so that they can start working well for you. So please now take as much time as you need to make the appropriate notes for your next year's plan. And now that you've put in all of that work and reflection, I can sincerely bring the question to you again. Fellow entrepreneur, fellow business leader, what kind of year did you have actually? And I hope your answer is much more rounded, fair, and inspired than the answer that you would have given at the beginning of the session. So some final next steps for you. If you didn't actually spend enough time with the material right now, I do invite you to continue working through the template until it is filled out and customized to your satisfaction. Please do make sure you save a copy of the template so you can use it in future years. Do make the effort to action your top takeaways from this review. And please get support if you need some. So if things came up for you, you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, do reach out to myself or other professionals that you respect to get yourself support for the coming year. Again, here is my contact information if you would like to reach out and work with me in the future. I hope you had a fantastic year and are inspired to do more great things in the next year. See you next time.